learned at the feet of the master.
Yeah.
So Dad was he was a creative director, an art director, and a writer over the years. He was a Montreal boy, and he ended up being a creative director at McLaren in Montreal, and then moved to Toronto. So I spent a little time when I was young in Montreal. Not very, I don't remember it. I was too young,
Mhm.
but I was at Expo '67, so I can say that. Um,
All right.
and yeah, so and then we moved to Toronto, and he was made creative director of McLaren here in Toronto. And so I was always surrounded by advertising and knew it and knew that he was doing it, though he never pushed me in that direction. He was a great writer, and all of my essays in school were well crafted and well written because Dad would take a look and go, try this, try that. And so I went to U of T and I studied political science and history, and I answered an ad from Ogilvy and Mather that was in the Career Center. It was for to be a media buyer at Ogilvy and Mather, and asked my dad what he thought of that. He said, "Well, see if you like the business, do it, but see if you like the business. If you like the business, then you can find your place in it." Right. So it was good advice, and I met some great people at Ogilvy and enjoyed it somewhat, but thought to myself, well, this isn't perfect for me, but I really think those account executives look cool and they're on a cooler floor. The way Ogilvy was set up was, the media department was on some sort of grim kind of Orwellian floor, and you go up to the account service floor, and it was like red carpet, and it was kind of this bacchanalian situation up there. So it was all very cool. And I thought, well, that's what I want to do. So I was taking the CAP course at the time, and I met someone who said, "Oh, well, our agency's hiring, account executives. So you maybe interview for that." So that was SMW, and I got a job as an account exec there, and I spent a couple of years there, and I did enjoy it much more because you got to meet clients and learn about the accounts from that angle. And I've always had a soft spot for account people because I walked a mile in their suit in their shoes and see how tough it is. But I looked up the food chain and I saw that what awaited in that career path was variations on a theme and highly detail oriented and so on. And I had a more of a creative flair, and I enjoyed writing, and I was at another agency by this time, and put a portfolio together and showed it around, and I was able to um, get a job as a writer at that same agency, which was Axsmith McIntyre Vict, which doesn't exist anymore. It
That sounds made up. That sounds made up.
does
Okay.
totally
Yeah.
sound made up, but it was with some lovely people. And it used to be Camp Advertising, then became that, and now it is evolved to become Agency 59, which still exists. And John McIntyre, the creative director there, let me become a writer at the agency, which was awesome, and I loved it. And went from there to work for Ranscombe and Company. Jim Ranscombe saw my book, and Jim was an exceptionally talented creative mind and creative director and writer, and really was a mentor for me, teaching me how to be a great copywriter and what it took to do that. And so many talented people went through Ranscombe and Company that are still in the business today. Lance Martin, Hayes Steinberg, Siobhan Dempsey, Les Seuss. I could go on. There's so many. Andrew Manson, Blaine Kennedy, just tons of very, very talented people went through Ranscombe and Company. And we, at the time, Ranscombe had a sister agency called Healthwise, which still exists, Healthwise Creative Resource Group. And so all the creative people at Ranscombe did the work, the creative work for Healthwise. So I had this sort of healthcare understanding in my that arrow in my quiver, I guess you could say. Um, and I went on from Ranscombe to go to other consumer agencies. I became creative director at, as you said, Sharp Blackmore Euro, working with Bill Sharp and Tom Blackmore, amazing guys, brilliant guys. And from there, and worked on Volvo and Dell there, and some really interesting work uh, with wonderful people. And then from there, took a job as creative director at ACLC, which doesn't exist anymore. It merged a number of years ago with, I think, Zig. But it was and that was Mercedes and Toshiba and other really Swiss Chalet and interesting pieces of business there. From there, I'm rattling through this, but from there, I was a creative director as a partner with Smith Roberts and like a boutique firm. I did that for a year before the opportunity with Anderson DDB came along, and Kevin Brady hired me and Frank Palmer because I had healthcare in the background, but didn't come exclusively from healthcare, and that's what they wanted as a creative director. And it was really I had a wonderful time there, 14-year run, and in the last couple of years was also doing dual duty as national creative director for DDB Canada, which involved promoting the work and helping the other offices with resourcing and doing other things like that. A lot of it was during COVID, so we would have weekly cross-country creative chats, which were great, good way to bring all the different people together from the different offices in Montreal and Vancouver and Edmonton. And so, yeah, it's been a wonderful, interesting ride. I've been very fortunate. I've worked with great clients and great people along the way. Yeah, so for the last number of years, certainly have a healthcare understanding, especially because I spent a lot of time in that space.